Right. So I would just like to welcome Hannah to the Unschooled podcast. Hi, Hannah. How are you today?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you.
Good. So, Hannah, one of the reasons that I asked you to come on the podcast is because I ended up kind of blogging about your your story. So I found it in I think it was the Devon Times, something like that.
Yes,
A Devon teenager left school at 15, gets American publishing deal at 17. So it is an amazing story, and I just wanted to try and
thank
get a
you.
little bit more of the background and find out a little bit more about you. I know we've had a conversation previously, so
hmm
we talked about a few things already, but can you just sort of give us an idea of what happened what happened to you at school that led you to want to leave at age 15?
Well, I primary school was fine for me.
Hmm.
I did primary school; it was a great time. And then going from year six to year seven, so going up to high school, was I had friends in year six, and they were going off to. Well, my main friendship group was going off to another school. So I had a couple of friends maybe that went up with me to high school, but not really anyone that would, I was really close with. And so I became close with those friends that went up to high school because it felt like I needed to stick with them.
Hmm.
And it was a rocky start, but it was fine. And then year eight, bullying started from these supposed friends, and these people started like texting like mean comments, and it became quite like emotionally like abusing. And it was and then physically it never became a problem. It never became physical, but then um, so in year eight, I had like a time off school because I couldn't feel like I could go and see um, these friends because I felt like they were my only friends. So if I went back to school, I would have no friends.
Hmm.
So I came back to school eventually, and I made up with the friends, and it continued from there. And I think I made a mistake by making up with them because it continued from there. They continued to make comments, and it was emotionally draining. And I think that the they thought it was a joke, I think, and they were joking around with a friend, but for me it was quite personal. And so year nine, I started to have problems with my ears, and we later found out that was psychosomatic. And it was because in the past I've had problems with my ears. I was in and out of hospital
Right.
with ear problems, and it was I went off for like months at a time, and it was and the school started like pressuring me to come back to school, and the
We
parents
were kind
were.
of saying that may be, or when we were talking earlier, that there may have been something
Hmm.
psychosomatic about that.
Yeah, definitely. It was very like it was it was confusing for us because we went to the doctors many a time, and they said to us, "There's nothing wrong with her. Her ears are maybe a bit red, but it's not anything to be like concerned about." Or
Hmm.
and we went to a consultant, and they said your ears are fine. And so we were sat here going, "Well, what's wrong with me then?" Because I could feel pain, and it was I think looking back, it was because I wanted there to be pain for a reason to stay off school, because I
Right.
didn't want to go back and face these friends, and I didn't want to go back and face the pressure that I was feeling from the school to be there,
Hmm.
because I think it would have just made me like break down. It would have been awful.
So you were talking about the pressure they put on your family for you to go to
Yeah,
school.
and they said to they I will remember always a EWO officer, educational welfare officer, came over to my house. And it was the day that I wasn't able to go into school. And they came, and my dad came up to me, and he said, "There's a person here to see you." And I was like, "Okay." And I was like, "All right, I'll come down." And they said to me, "Look, your parents are going to go to prison if you don't go to school today. You're,
Wow.
you're going to be in danger of being, prosecuted." And I was sat at the kitchen table, and she left, and I was in floods of tears, thinking, "Oh my God, I need to go, but I don't want to."
Hmm.
And so it was, and then year 10, I had an ultimatum that if the first 2 weeks I could go, that the like charges maybe would be dropped against mum and dad.
Yeah.
So those 2 weeks I did go, which I'm really thankful for. But it was after that it, you know, I never went again after that, because it was so much pressure kept me there.
Right.
And the pressure that kept me there kind of like broke down when I left. And so it was kind of like the pressure, and this the people that were like saying to me, you need to go to school to be like successful in life, you're gonna have to go to school to get like GCSEs,
Yes.
A levels. And it was really hard in our family, because it was kind of like my mum and dad didn't know what to do. They felt like they needed to get me to school, and we didn't know what was keeping me from going to school.
Got it.
And
so let's just briefly talk about that sort of thing that you raised just there. So there is this, sorry about my cough.
No, it's fine.
I'm not best of health, but we're here anyway. It's all good. Let's just talk about what we were speaking about earlier, the idea of what school is for. Okay, I was talking to you initially about my ideas for unschooled, and one of the things that one of the questions that really interested me, having been in education, was, what does school do for our pupils and what doesn't it do? Right? What's the positives and what's the negatives? So in terms of the work and what you were being taught, how did you feel about that?
Well, because I'm an author, because I'm writing as my job kind of now. Looking back, when we were in English class, it was never about setting a scene. It was never about, writing a story. You were never told how to write a novel. We were never told how to, do all of these things that you need to do to become like a writer. But for me, writing is about doing what you enjoy and doing what you want, and how you want to do it. So without learning how to, you kind of like, when I first started writing, I was writing like a scene, and I was describing what it looked like. And it became like loads of facts just thrown at the reader, because it was kind of just me putting down to paper what I thought the scene looked like, and it didn't flow. And it was mostly academic, because it was no skills, and it was no like skills that we were taught that needed to be like in life, like.
So they were teaching you skills that were potentially useful.
Yeah, they were.
But not necessarily relevant to life.
No, they weren't, because I always remember people asking like maths teachers, how does this help us in real life? And I don't think we were ever taught how to do, like taxes, or, just how to survive, like with jobs. And it was kind of like, and I think it was useful if you kind of want to go into a thing that was to do with like sciences, or you wanted to go in to do maths. But other than that, you didn't have many options. It was kind of like you were forced to go down the academic route, not the route that you wanted to do.
Okay, brilliant. So we've now kind of got to the point where, you've been in school and you've realised that some of it's useful, but not necessarily relevant. One of the other things it seems to me that you realised was that, people talk a lot about how school is very good for socialisation and helps you make friends, but actually can work against you, right? And does for a lot of people. Bullying is a real problem in schools all over the world, unfortunately. So you got to the point where this became a sort of an anxiety problem for you, and then eventually, how did it all end for you, and how did it change?
Well, it was kind of like at the end of year 9, we knew that something was not right. Like it was not normal. Like I couldn't understand what I was feeling. And so we asked the school for potential help, and they did no support. Like they had no support, and we didn't have support in identifying what that was, but I knew it was something.
Yeah.
And so the school was like, well, we can't help you. And so we went to the doctors and they were like, well, you need to go to the school. And we were like, well, we can't, because they said we can't help us. And so eventually I was referred to CAMS.
Right.
And
that's the Child and Adolescent
yeah,
Mental Health Service, right?
Yeah. And then they realised that it was severe anxiety that I was feeling, or like that I had.
Yeah.
And so they signed me off school, and that was at the beginning of year 10. And ever since then, I have not been back to school. I did most of my exams from home.
Okay.
And it was, it was kind of hard for me to realise that maybe I wouldn't get anywhere in life because of the exams that I was, and I didn't feel like I could get anywhere in life because the school was saying to me that they were saying to me, you can't get anywhere in life without exams. So with the exams that I had, I felt like I was at a loss. I couldn't do much. And so I think once I left school, like the physical building of school, I realised that I was thriving more, and it was kind of like I had a tutor come to my house and she would do one-on-one sessions with me about English. And it was only then that I really, started to enjoy it, because it was kind of a relaxed atmosphere, but it was directed at me. So it was kind of like, with everyone else in school, it's kind of directed at the whole class. So if the whole class is, stuck with multiplications, but I'm stuck with division or something, they would be like, well, we're all doing multiplication today. And I'll be like, okay, so I'm not doing what I need to do to get this,
So we were talking about the difference between teaching and learning, weren't we? And how
we were.
How you discovered, in a way, that you could learn. You had this one-to-one experience, which was positive for you.
Yeah.
And, it seems from what you're saying that allowed you to then move forward.
Yeah, she was actually a better support than the school was to me, and she was really amazing at helping me become just become glad with what I had, and not with, not worry about what I could have. And so it was like, so she really helped me, she helped me with English. So it was kind of like, that's what made my love for English actually grow more. And so, it's kind of like the tutor, and the difference between the tutor and school was that the school was more, you have to do this, you have to do this to get into college. My tutor was like, well, don't worry about college, just get through what you have now. And if you go to college, great, but if you don't, there are other options. And so I think if I had been with that atmosphere, like from the beginning of high school, I would have done a lot better.
Right.
And I would have actually felt more inclined to continue going to school, rather than the pressure from the teachers to do good at your exams.
Yeah.
And I know that they have, they've got to do their job, and they've got things that they need to do with, like, get their grades and stuff. But the students feel so much pressure from them, because they know that the teachers are trying to get them the best grade possible. So you feel bad if you don't get that grade, and then it's kind of like tumbles from there.
Yeah. So, and I suppose when you told me about about that sort of relationship with your tutor, it sounded great to me, but I still couldn't quite understand how you went from there to being a best-selling author 2 years later. So just describe to us how that process worked.
The school didn't really at school I'd never went into creative writing. I didn't want to do creative writing because I didn't feel like it was an option. So when I left school, it was kind of that time of me not knowing what to do. I kind of got back into writing, because I've been writing for a lot. It was like when I was younger, I'd write really short stories about 100 words, and they would come out really simple and not very good. So when I left school, it was kind of like it became a hobby, and it kind of made me feel like I could channel my feelings into my writing. I could escape into another world. I could do something else, but stay in my house. So it was like I could be like on the moon if I wanted to. But
so you could almost like experiment with different types of person that you could be.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that when it was a hobby, I kind of like didn't realize that it could actually be something that I could do. And I started looking around like the websites that I could post online, maybe just to get my work out there to make people happy. I didn't have any like other ulterior motive. It was just to get people to read my work and maybe laugh from it, or make their day a bit brighter.
Yeah.
So, and I've always found reading helps with that. So I thought if I have if someone else can read my work and feel that would be amazing. So I found a website or app called Wattpad, which is a place where you can post chapters. It's like a serial, so you post chapters maybe every week or every 2 weeks, whatever is best for you. And I think on there I realized that, there's like a real divide of readers and writers. Like the writers are writers and readers are readers, but on this app you could be a reader, but you could also be a writer.
Okay.
So it's kind of like you could read other people's works, you could vote, you can comment, and I try to like keep that connection of readers and writers. So I would like reply to every comment, I would reply to every message I ever got, and I felt like it made a connection between me and my readers even stronger than just reading my work.
Sure it did.
Yeah. So I stayed on Wattpad for I'm still on Wattpad, but I stayed writing on Wattpad just for fun on about 2 years, and for one of those years my mum and dad didn't even know what was going on. So I remember coming downstairs one day and said to my mum, "Oh, I'm writing online." She was like, "What?" And it was at that time that it became more popular, and I never realised that my writing was good until like I got an email earlier this year, I think, from my publisher asking whether I would like to publish my most popular book called Haley's Daughter. And at the time it was kind of like a surprise, and really nice surprise, but also like something that boosted my confidence and said, yes, you're actually very good. You're not very good, but you're an okay writer. And so I think the publisher kind of like, and then it kind of went from there. But before that, it was just a hobby, and I never realised that it could become a job. I never wanted it to become a job until about, a couple of months ago. So, so.
And now you feel you kind of have a potential career ahead of you as a writer?
Yeah, I do. And I think that maybe in the future I will find a way of doing something else just to get, just to keep me going, just to keep like money and like for food and stuff.
Sure.
But I think writing's going to be a career that I want to go down, and I think it's a place where I can be myself, and it's not something that people are judging me on, doing it, because you can do whatever you want with writing. And
absolutely.
So I think when I wanted to get my message out there about like mental health and stuff, I want people to know that it's like you're not alone. And it was, I kind of weaved that into like my stories, because I wanted people to read it and go, oh no, I know what that feels like, or oh yeah, no, I can understand that. So
right, fantastic. And then the sort of question that I asked you, I ended with, was do you think that if you'd have stayed at school, you'd have become a writer?
No, I wouldn't have. I think if I had stayed in school, I wouldn't have gone down the road of posting online. I wouldn't have gone down the road of, even writing. I would have probably been too busy to write. I'd have done homework. I'd have had, exams coming up, revision. And so I would never have had the chance just to sit down and write. And I think my brother's going to college next year, so he had a syllabus for the college, and so I was looking through it just to see, what kind of courses there were, and I saw they had a creative writing course.
Right.
And if I had been in school, I would have never gone for it, because first of all, I probably wouldn't have got into creative writing, and secondly, I wouldn't want to have that like structure of, you're going to have to do this by this next week, you're going to have to do this. I think I wanted to go with like the flow of, doing whatever I wanted with the writing.
So again, that's kind of like teaching and learning, isn't it? So it's almost like someone's trying to structure the experience for you and teach you how to be a writer, whereas in fact you learned how to be a writer.
Yeah, and it developed all as I go, and it's kind of like I learn how as I go, and it's kind of, if I'm writing and I'm like, I'll look up a word or something, or use a thesaurus, and then I'm like, and then by reading I'm learning as well, because it's kind of like I learn how other people have described scenes, I've learned how other people have written dialogue, and I think I'd have learned better. I've learned better than I would have if I was in school.
Yeah, so you're a far better learner than you ever were a student.
Yes.
not for any fault of, not that you were a bad student, but just that you needed to have that freedom in order to learn what it is you wanted to learn and the way you wanted to learn it.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. What an amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing it.
No, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So I just want to, there's a little story behind your writer's name. So
yes, there is.
Hannah, but your writing name is Charlotte Carrol.
Yeah.
So before we get into that, can you just tell us how we can get hold of you and read your stuff?
My books are on Amazon currently. They're ebook and paperback.
So is it Hades' Daughter?
Yes, Hades' Daughter.
Okay.
The War of Fate series.
Right.
And they are currently on Amazon, and we're hoping to get them into bookstores, but that's like the long-term goal. So if you want to buy my book, it's on Amazon. But I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and I've got a website called Awesome Authors. I think it's Charlotte-Carrol awesomeauthors.org.
Okay, I'll try and link that below.
I'll send you
our interview. That's fantastic. And then finally, so how did you create your name?
Well, it started out because I got a text from someone that was at school still, and I was at home, and they said, "Oh, you'll never guess what? Someone's got a YouTube channel." And I was like, "Oh my God, what if they find my, writing? What if they start judging it?" So I was like, I wanted to change my name because it was kind of like a username that you could probably find me by that username. So I changed my name to Charlotte Carrol. The reason behind it was because Charlotte was what I was going to be called when I was younger, and my mum and dad were coming out of the hospital and they had already agreed on Hannah. And someone stopped them and went, "Oh, what a lovely baby, what's she called?" And my mum was like, "Charlotte." And I was like, and then my dad was like, "No, it's not Charlotte, it's Hannah." So that's how I got Charlotte. And then Carol is my dad's mum's name and my middle name, and I've never met her because she died when my dad was a young boy. So it's kind of like that's my connection to her. So that's how I got Charlotte Carrol.
Fantastic. Right, Hannah, thank you so much for taking part.
Thank you.
And I will link your details for everybody so they can